What's up, guys? Holding Alice with you here, bringing you Eden Zevo manga review, chapter 16. We have a lot to discuss in this chapter. One, before we get into the chapter, I want to apologize for doing this late. Had to work a double, so I was able only to do one video earlier and go back on work. I want to break and then go back to work. Then now I just got home from work, so now I'm doing my second one. But the chapter starts off with, Shiki and them talking to the new robot sister, finding out she's one of the 4 sisters of, the ship. And basically, we find out that the ship, you need all 4 of these people, these sisters, to actually go out the cosmos. Because if not, you bump into Dragon's Fall. And once you get to Dragon's Fall, where a whole bunch of dragons are at, it's over. To eat any ship that's there. So for them to protect themselves against that and just go through, they need the power of all 4 sisters for the ship. And this was explained to them and stuff. And this is being explained by the sister, one of the sisters anyway. Shiki was super excited. He wanted to definitely go because he wanted to see the dragons, which caught my interest because the last time we saw a dragon, it looked mechanical. So do all the dragons look mechanical? That'd be kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time, since this is like a sci-fi adventure fantasy. So, but yeah, that was kind of cool to see. Then you have this one part where like Lucy's getting like in the bathtub, and the sister's like massaging her and stuff, and saying you want to use ether gear. And she's like, "Do you hear that?" And we found out that she can hear everything on the ship because she's part of the ship. So she's like the all-seeing eye and ear when she's on the ship. So, and her and Lucy's talking about that. Then we have this funny part where like she's asking Rebecca, for different rubs, like massage rubs and stuff. And she was like, "What's up with all these like extreme like names for it?" And she's like, "The last one I don't want to do at all." But it's funny because Happy wanted to do it, and he actually liked it because he's a robot. And it's called, I think, Endless Torture Mechanics, or something similar to that. I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the specific term they used, but Happy was enjoying it for a while until, like, they left him too long on the machine, so now he's overloaded and he's just there, knocked unconscious, but it was funny. Then you see in the thumbnail, there's this one part where it looked like the sister was gonna choke, Rebecca, but in all honesty, she was just massaging her in a specific certain spot, as you see in the thumbnail. But it was just hilarious seeing that moment between them and finding out the sister. So far, she seems like a good robot, a person. But then you have Shiki and them trying to go into the area where she's at the spa, and it's funny because like they violated their code, so they couldn't go in. And it was stated, that the sister has a heart like all robots. And Pino was like, "Master Shiki, do I have a heart?" He's like, "Of course you do. That's why you cry and you worry and stuff like that." And she got happy and she asked, "Can I join your crew? Can I go with you to the outside the Cosmo Kingdom?" And he's like, "Sure, yeah, thanks for joining again." And they fist bump, which was pretty cool. I liked that. So now we have 2 main mascots, like we always do. Rave Master, we had a squid and Blue. Then in Fairy Tale, we had Blue and Happy. And now here we have Happy and Pino. So it's nice, seeing these mascots and seeing how like there's always 2 mascots and 2 main characters, and the 2 main characters will always be one boy and girl, and then their pets is like the mascots. So I like how Hero always does that and always correlate that into his manga. So that was pretty cool. But then after all that, we get back to the Shooting Star Guild, and why says this is where we split our parts because I don't want to join your I don't want to join the guild, but neither at the same time I want to join you on your crew. So peace, I'm out. And he leaves. So we don't know we are going to see him again, but we most likely will. But where he's off doing his own thing, chasing girls and stuff. They went back to the girl, the shooting star, depending on what translation you're reading. I know where I was reading the Engineering box, it's pronounced a shooting star, starlight, but in other, it's considered meteor torch. So, but I like shooting starlight, so I'm gonna go with that. But yeah, those are two different names depending on which translation you're reading. But they go back to the girl. And when they go back, they meet Lavella Christie, which is the Wendy of this universe. A busty teenage chick with horse robotic legs and really stuck-up attitude, who's also a big Huber like Rebecca. And as the last time they met, she's just picking on Rebecca and stuff like that, and Rebecca's like saying, "Is it really that fun to make fun of me?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, of course it is, ha ha ha." And her bodyguards are in the background laughing too. Then Shiki steps in and just looks at her mean, and she hugs Shiki and she's like, you should do a video with me." And Shiki was like, "Well, I want to do a video with you. You're a bully." And bullies like taking bad advice. Which I have to admit, that was an awesome phrase that Shiki used. Being a bully is like taking bad advice. That's very true. So, for all those young ones out there, remember that. But after that, they went their own ways and stuff like that. And Rebecca and Shiki went to the front desk. They met Claire, and Claire told him, "The Guild Master's looking for you, and you have to go to his room." And Shiki was like, "What's a Guild Master?" And before Rebecca gets to like explain what that is, we cut off to the last part of the panel, the last part of the chapter, which is just like this robotic ninja guy with like weird hair, spiky hair, in a black robe in front of Lavala, and he says something to her, and she's like, "Look, if you're a fan, I don't really like your style or no questions, so leave." Unfortunately, this guy's not a fan. This guy's an assassin. And Christy is his target, so Christy might get body next episode. I doubt it though, because even though she may get body, I doubt it that she dies, because we all know Hiro doesn't like to kill off his characters unless he really needs to, so. But that was basically the end of the chapter. They ended off with that. It was a good chapter. I loved it. I'm very interested about that dragon stuff. Seeing like how the dragons in this realm, how they look and how the system works. You know, Fairy Tail, dragons were a big, huge things over there. And the energy that they produced was wanted by a lot of people. So how is that going to be here, since Eden Zero is technically, I guess you could say, a futuristic of that realm? Well, who knows? Maybe Eden Zero, they may pull a Star Wars with it, and maybe Eden Zero actually comes before Fairy Tail. And if that's the case, then that means Eden Zero will also not just be before Fairy Tail, be in front of us, also Monster Hunter, Monster Soul, and Wave Master, which are the other mangas that Hiro created. Which, if you don't know, those mangas all take time in the same place of reality. So there's just one big war, and Hiro has them all at different spots. So that's one thing Hiro don't get like a lot of credit for his writing. And I think it's because, you know, because of how he did with Fairy Tail, that's probably why a lot of people hated on it. He didn't put his A game on it like he did with Wave Master. And the thing with like Hiro Mashima is not really his writing. His writing is good. It's his fight scenes. A lot of the Fairy Tail fight scenes were lackluster in like the second half, from the Grand Magic games up. And that's when a lot of people started hating it and dropping it and just dissing it completely. Even though, you know, the power of friendship is a cheesy way to power up your characters to beat the villains, but it does make sense. And on top of that, this is how he hooked up that realm. That more emotions increases different certain magics and powers, and power levels can go up or down depending on it. So a lot of people don't like that fact, but that's how he hooked it up. But again, I wonder if, you know, the dragons are going to be important, like in Fairy Tail. I also wonder how is ether energy used here. Is that going to be like the ether that the mage have in their bodies in Fairy Tail? Are we going to get more explanation on that? We know there's a power level system in here, which we never really got in Fairy Tail. In Fairy Tail, it was more like a rank system. We got A, B, and C, and then S, and then double S, and so forth, so forth. So then we got the entitlements, like God, Devil Slayer, Temple of Saints, stuff like that. So that was basically the rank system in Fairy Tail. But in here, we got an actual physical number-based power system. Because a couple of chapters ago when Shiki was fighting Ezra, or LZ Crimson, I should say, Elza's counterpart for here, they stated that he had over 100,000 ether gear nanos in his body. That energy that we're reading, but they couldn't tell who it was because it never met Shiki. So, of course, it was Shiki giving out that signal. So that's another thing I wonder. But yeah, it's late at night, guys. So I'm gonna stop rambling here. But please leave your comments down below. Tell me what you thought of the chapter. Tell me what you're expecting to see. Are you happy that we're getting more crew members? Since we have to look for these 3 sisters, and most likely we're gonna pick up more people along the way. This is kind of like Fairy Tail meets Star Wars in space with One Piece. Not that I'm knocking it, because like I said, I've been liking it, and I love how Hitler's going, and his pen game has been pretty good so far with this. So hopefully he keeps the momentum up until we end, whenever that is. Hopefully we have like another 4 or 5 years with this, but I'm really loving this manga and the things that is going. But again, like, comment, share it below. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. Share it with your family and friends. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.